Hello. I guess we're on the air. We're doing, there we go. I just got the pop up. Okay. Um, we're on the air with Tour for the Nations. There we go. Yes. Now I see it. We're up there. Hello, everybody. This is Pesach Sherbo coming to you live from Sfat, Israel. And we're so happy to have you with us on this 24th day of February in year 2021. And welcome to Tour for the Nations, B'nai Noach Connection with Israel. And we're so glad to see you all now. And don't forget, join the Zoom. Go click on the Zoom. It's on my Facebook page. It's on B'nai Noach Facebook page. It's on Tour for the Nations Facebook page. Go out there, get on Zoom, and join the room. Now, just a quick announcement. We're going to start doing things a little different. I'm welcoming everybody tonight, and then I'm going to turn everything over here just a minute to Scotty, who's our engineer. He takes care of all the stuff, and then Terry's got some things he's going to present. We're changing the format a little bit because I have a lot of things going on that I have to take care of. And I need a little time and a little rest. And this month, I'm 76 years old, and I need to take some time off. I want to go into retirement, I guess, semi-retirement, and it's time to the Noahides. We're teaching the Noahides. It's time that the community comes together wherever you are around the world. It doesn't make any difference what rabbi you're listening to or anything, because they're all teaching the same exact thing. And you need to come together as a cohesive group. When newbies come around and they ask me questions, what is it? Where can I go meet with other Noahides? Where can I have, what groups can I have? What can I have, all of this stuff? And you're the ones that make it. You have to do this. The rabbis can't do it for you. Nobody else can do it for you. So you have to do it by becoming who you are and being who you are and coming together as a group. One cohesive group. Now, in the group, there may be a little, these people, the Tennesseans are here, the Californians are over there, the Philippines are over, the Philippines, Indians are in Philippines, the Nigeria, but you're still one group. You have to look at each other and say, I'm looking at my brother, I'm looking at the image that God made. He made that person in his image, and we're supposed to come together, work together, meet together, not compete, and not say somebody's better than somebody else. We're supposed to just come together. And in God's plan, he never set up his plan that everybody should be Jews. He set us up as teachers, and we pass on the information to you, and you don't have to do what we do. And some of the things you do, we're not allowed to do, but it doesn't make us holier or better or anything else. It just means this is the reason we were created, to do these particular jobs. And it has the same to do as if you're a truck driver, a train driver, a cab driver, whatever you do, a cashier, hairdresser. That's what you're supposed to do. And that's who you are. And a Jew is a Jew. And we were told we're supposed to teach the world and then watch. You guys are the ones that run the world, not us. We're supposed to watch what goes on. If you need help, you come and you get help from understanding and learning and teaching. And it's really, really important that y'all understand this. And Terry has a good understanding of this. Scotty has a good understanding of this. I know many of you others do, but they can guide you and help you. You're not here, Zoom teaching and the other teachings they do is not to compete with anybody. It's to add to the wealth of information that is out there for you all. There's so much of it. So much of it. So that's what I wanted to say. I've already explained to Scotty and Terry. I got things going on in my life. Plus, I have to go in after Passover, which is in a couple of weeks. I have to go for knee replacement surgery, and I'm just going to be down for a little while. But I'm here all the time on Facebook, and I'm on WhatsApp. You guys can get a hold of me. Anybody that needs counseling and help, the individual groups I'm teaching, I will still continue to teach. And if anybody needs counseling or has specific questions, get a hold of me, and I'll help you. I have no problem with that. And I see James just came in. I want to say hi to Terry and Scotty and Thomas and Amuela and Fred and James and somebody listening in on the phone, which we don't know your name, but we see your phone number there. All right, it's good to see you guys. I'm turning this over to Scotty, the chief engineer, who's going to keep things running smoothly and the engine's going while we go through tonight's meeting.
All right. Rabbi, I want to say that we thank you so much for trusting Terry and I to achieve this task for you, but we want you to know that you are our umbrella. You are covering us. So anybody that sees this in the future or sees us in the future, we want you to know that Rabbi Pesach Sherbo is our umbrella. And if we don't know what's going on, we go to you, Rabbi. We come to you. So, I want to start this off real quick with something that's been on my heart all day. Terry's got a presentation, and when he begins to do this, Terry and I talked, we're going to ask you that are here and in the Zoom room, if you have any questions, kindly hold them to the end of the class/meeting. If you have a pen and paper, kindly write down those questions. So I know sometimes I'll get a question in my mind. If I don't write it down, I will forget it. And you may want to take some notes. And I don't want to call it fact checking. I just want to call it deeper study after Terry brings and presents some of the things. He's had me deeper study many times. He'll text me during the day and I won't get a lick of work in the rest of the day, Terry, because I'll be looking up what's on his heart. I want to start this. I want to do this class tonight meeting in remembrance of, in honor and remembrance of blessed memory of a friend whose child passed away last night. I don't have full details, so I'm not going to give any names at this time, but Baruch Hashem, Hashem knows who I'm talking about and others. And I want to challenge you that if you have something that you would like us to present or do these classes in honor for them, in remembrance of them, blessed memory, you can put that in chat or maybe instant message Terry and I, and we may not remember them all. We may not get to them all, but they will be remembered in one way or the other. So have I said everything? Did I cover everything? Rabbi Pesach, are we going so far pretty good?
Absolutely. You're rocking and rolling. That's
okay.
Good. That's good.
Okay.
That's good.
So without further ado, I'm going to slip back in the engine room and let Terry come to the forefront of the captain chair. Terry.
There we go. If I turn my mic on, it's a lot better, isn't it? Oh, hope everyone's had a good day today. It's been a little crazy on my end, but we're here tonight.
Terry mentioned to me before we started, and I hope it's okay. I know that sometimes other people have questions and they want to jump in with them, but Terry has given me permission to jump in because you all know how I am. But I will not jump in, Terry, if you're doing a presentation. And if I got a question, I'll try to give you a heads up on that. But that's how Terry and I work. Terry's the captain chair, and I call up from the engine room and say, our dilithium crystals are kind of messing up, Terry. I need to ask you to explain this a little better for everybody else. So go ahead, Terry.
If you've seen our videos, you see how we, rock and roll a little bit. And I wore my NASA shirt tonight. Conversation had at work today. We were talking about some quantum physics things and about how sound doesn't travel through a vacuum. And so I thought we'd discuss tonight how a warp drive core produces energy to move a ship in a vacuum. Okay, now that I've scared everybody. Oh, that's just
I done fastened my seatbelt here in Tennessee.
I just done that as a light note. Everyone knows I'm a Trekkie, so but I did. My manager at work, he's very interesting and intellectual, and some of the conversations we get into it surprises me. So, but yeah, I'm NASA. I love space. Go out there, visit where Shem has made all kinds of cool stuff. He's made all kinds of cool stuff here that I haven't got to see yet, like the Alps. And so anyhow, tonight I want to Sunday night, when we had our Sunday night class with Rabbi, there was a question that came through one of the avenues that kind of inspired, I guess might inspired this. It wasn't just that question alone. It's been in something I've been seeing, which I'll get into here later for quite a while. And it kind of is what the inspiration for tonight's lesson is in. But before I get started, Scotty, we're on your radio station, right? Okay. I wanted to just make a short little announcement for the radio station and anyone else that's listening in through YouTube and stuff that's not familiar with the word Noahide, because I'm going to be mentioning it quite a bit. And the word Noahide is really simple. It's a modern English, I call it modern. It's been around for a while, but it's an English form of the Hebrew B'nai Noach, and B'nai Noach means family or children of Noah. And essentially, every human being this side of the Great Flood is a Noahide in English. There are different levels of Noahides. You have, like the Jews, they're Noahides, but they are the priest. And so they're at a different level than the rest of us. They still have to observe the Noahide laws like we do. But it goes deeper for them because of their responsibilities. And you have, like the Rambam, who we've mentioned in the past, talks about those that are wise and those who are a little, that are pious are the ones who are observing the 7 laws. Some do it through rationality. Some do it because Hashem or the Creator, said to. And then there are some that observe them, which a lot of humanity observes a big portion of what God expects from humanity. They may just not know they're doing it. Maybe they don't understand they're doing it and everything. So when you hear me mention the word Noahide, it's basically the children of Noah, just a modern term. It's easy to say. It's nothing mystical, nothing religious. It's just, saying like I'm a Tennessean and Scotty's a Tennessee. We're from Tennessee, Noahide. My great grandfather was Noah. And that's basically, we're named after him, the one who came through the flood. So I just wanted to make that little bit of announcement. Hope that helps any of those that may be out there in the radio land and YouTube land where, if they're unfamiliar with the term, because I'm going to be saying it a lot tonight and tonight's, because I'm going to be going through some material. And tonight what I want to cover, and I'm going to slaughter this probably really well with my, Hebrew and Southern you know, dialect just sometimes doesn't click, you know. As I used to kid around with some people, I'm from Southern Judea. And so anyhow, what I want to go through tonight, and we're going to cover it through a couple different sources. It's called Hadushi Dot, or better understood in English as a new, creating a new religion or adding a commandment that's not to be, that doesn't need to be added. But what's interesting is that, see, in Hebrew, there is no word for religion. In Hebrew, it's dot, or in Ashkenaz, das, which is knowledge. We're not to create a new knowledge. We're not to add a new knowledge. And that's what we're going to be getting into. There's been some questions among the Noahides about different things about, well, can I do this? Can I do that? And we're going to look into this. And it's very important up front. It's very important to study. You in your lifetime will not learn everything there is to learn about the Noahide laws. Every time I think I've got a handle on it, I'll see something, I'll read something, I'll look at something, and I'm like, okay, I'm back to square one. Because it's just it's eternal. It's Torah. It's the mind of the Creator. And there's no way we will learn every bit of it. We may learn a lot of it, but for the most part, most of us barely even scratch the surface on it. So there's things that we need to learn from the Noahide laws. And when you begin to study the Noahide laws individually and through their details and everything that can connect to them, that will a lot of times will answer questions. Your own study will answer some questions that you'll have. You'll think to yourself, well, what about this? Or what about that? And then you'll study in that area and you'll find out, okay, this will fit here. No, this doesn't fit. And studying helps out. Anything else, Scotty, there before I jump into our material?
No, I found it fascinating. I didn't really realize, and I guess I knew it in the back of my mind, that the Jewish people were offspring of Noah, but now they are the priests of us. Did I understand that correctly?
Yeah, we're all offspring of Noah. Noah had 3 sons, and Israel, the Jewish people, is from Shem.
Okay,
they're from Shem. Some of us will be from Shem, but we're not from the line that Abraham came from. There's a lot of descendants of Shem, but they're from the line of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, who descended from Shem. And some of us may be from Japheth, and some may be from Ham. There was 3 sons who populated the earth. And we're going to see in an interesting quote here in a minute when I get to it, that's going to show a little bit more of that. That's really, I found really interesting. I wanted to bring out tonight. But Hadushi Dot, or like I said, not creating a new religion or adding a commandment, not to add to or take away from. And we're going to get into an area that some people feel like it's adding and it's not. And I want to share that with you because it's important that because Noahides don't even really discuss that area a lot, and a lot of us don't even apply it in our lives. I know. So it's a good area that I wanted to cover tonight as well. But I'm going to start out in what's called the Noahide Law Study Edition in lesson 14. It said, Hadushi Dot is a principle fundamental to the identity of Noahides and the observance of the Noahide laws. However, it is a concept difficult for many Noahides to grasp. This is a very difficult thing for some to grasp, to understand when we might cross the line and transgress this principle and actually form a new religion for ourselves or add something to ourselves that doesn't need to be added. So to those unfamiliar with the mechanics of Torah, it appears to impose restrictions upon Noahide practice. Hadushi dot, though does not, it says, though does no such thing. It defines and protects the boundaries of what makes a Noahide, preserving it as its own identity. And see, in the last two classes that we've done, we've talked about the divine law of according to species that the Creator set up from the beginning. Divine laws before He brought man into the picture, there was divine laws already intact there. And Rabbi Hirsch even says he feels that the law according to kind or species is really a primary teaching of Torah, and it is. When you get into when you get into studying, you'll begin to see this. And so, in a way, this Hadushi dot falls right in line with what we've been talking about, because it says it preserves its own identity. And when I went back and I read that, I'm like, that's right in line with what we've been talking about. We've got to learn to preserve. We as Noahides, we got to learn to preserve our identity. And there's nothing wrong with you having your own identity. Right now, there's a lot of identity crisis going on all around us, all around the world right now. They're having identity crisis. And Hadushi dot preserves for us this principle of setting boundaries, which I'm fixing to go into. Now I'm going to read some Hebrew here. It's in the Hebrew, and I'll explain it. Or if Scotty, if you need me to explain, just pop in there. In the Talmud, which is one of the great writings, Jewish writings of the Torah from the sages, in the Talmud Yerushalayim, which are Jerusalem, it states, anyone who performs a mitzvah, a commandment, in which he was not commanded from the Torah, he is, and I want to again probably destroy this, hidot. That's the Hebrew word. It says, this is discussing someone who performs a commandment to which he has absolutely no connection to whatsoever. Then he is in effect adding to the Torah which we have been given. The Ramban, Nachmanides, adds the definition to a Jew of Hidot is a Jew who performs a mitzvah that in which he has no obligation is called foolish, because he thinks that he is acting piously. However, he may actually be committing a transgression of adding to the Torah. So there's 613 base commandments there for the Jews. How can they add to that? Well, not all 613 applies to every single Jew. You have laws that are for the priest. I'm going to use this example. It says here, a Jew who performs a mitzvah that in which he has no obligation. Well, God says, keep all my commandments. He tells Israel, keep my commandments. And when some read this, they think it's speaking to them. And it's you've got to find out where you're at. You've got to find your identity within the Torah. And even for a Jew, they have to have their own identity. Just like an example, how can they add something? Well, let's say that you're an average Jew from one of the tribes that are not a Levite, where the Kohanim are. And the Kohanim are given the commandment on how and when to clean the ashes off the altar. So the average one that lives on down in southern Israel, he's in Jerusalem that day. Oh, I think I want to go clean. He says, keep my commandments. So I want to take that commandment on myself. I'm going to go clean the ashes off. He just added an obligation that wasn't his, even though he was a Jew and the command was given to a Jew. So this is why we have to study. We have to find our identity within the Torah. And it's very important for us Noahites because we have a tendency to just pick up the scriptures, the Hebrew scriptures, and want to. We grew up, many of us in our former religions grew up thinking, well, that's speaking to me. I want to do it. We can get in trouble by doing that. That's why we need to learn to study, find a teacher, let them help you discover, like with the Noahides, where you're at, what you're supposed to do. So you're not doing something that you have no obligation or connection to. I hope, am I saying that okay, Scotty?
Terry, and I know I told everybody to make notes, but I can't keep my mouth shut. So I'm just, I see Amuela just writing away. So I just need you to clarify something because somebody on the radio put a big what in big letters with exclamation point, which means they were shouting, what? So not all the 613 are for all to perform of the Jewish people. Did I say that correctly?
Correctly. There's not a Jew living or ever will live that can observe all 613 commandments. And I'm not saying that that person doesn't have the ability. Let's say they have the 100% ability to do it. They can't. Now here's the reason why. There are commandments for women. How can a Jewish man observe the laws of a woman pertaining to her monthly cycle?
You're blowing my mind.
But God said, keep my commandments. So how can a man keep those commandments? God said, keep my commandments. So that right there tells you we have to find our identity in the Torah.
I never thought about this, Terry, so us as B'nai Noach, no, you're going to get to that. I'm not just go ahead, Terry. You're blowing my mind. I see.
I'm hoping I'm answering that question for the person who asked on the radio.
Yeah.
Because the laws are segregated. I guess the word segregated. Am I using that word right? Am I using it right? They're divided up. The God gives the laws. All of them are his commandments, but he gives some to the Kohanim, the priest, some to the Levites. If you're a businessman, you have certain laws you have to follow. If you live in the land, if a Jew lives in the land of Israel, he has to do certain laws. But if he's outside the land of Israel, he doesn't do those laws, and he's not transgressing when he doesn't. See why you need to study,
and why you need a teacher,
and why you need a teacher to help bring this about. To help you understand this. It says, who defines for us what actions are holy or not? Can we decide that an act is holy or a mitzvah on our own? Can we just read the Torah and say, I'm going to make this decision? No, we can't. Well, matter of fact, that's actually the next three words. No, we cannot. The entire concept of a mitzvah is that God has defined for us what is meaningful and holy and what is not meaningful and holy. Therefore, our will is at a large degree, irrelevant. Our duty as servants of the Creator is, I'm not going to say this in Hebrew, but it is to nullify our will in the search for and the servitude of his will. We must strive to understand God's will, learn to recognize it, and learn how to fulfill it according to its specific details. The objective guidepost for determining God's will and its fulfillment is the study of the Torah according to the principles of Torah elucidation handed down from time immortal. I can't say that word, Scotty. I got that one twisted. immoral. In certain areas, God has given man leeway to beautify his mitzvah or to declare certain things holy and set aside for the service of God. However, if a Jew decides to do a mitzvah where it is clearly does not apply to that Jew, he is forcing his will upon God. And that's what we do. We as Noahides, we can put the term right there. However, a Noahide who decides to do a mitzvah where it certainly does not apply, that Noahide is forcing his will upon the Creator.
Wow. Wow. That's all I can say.
He goes on and says, here's another example of one adding. And I've kind of mentioned this a little bit while ago. It says, if a Jewish farmer is in the Midwest United States, decides not to work the field on the Shemitah, the sabbatical year, they let the ground lay for 7 years or for a year every 7 years, insisting that he is doing it for God, and he's called foolish. For one, the mitzvah only exists inside the land of Israel. God's desire is for the Holy Land to rest in the sabbatical year, not another land. To rest another non-holy land in the sabbatical year is to diminish the importance of Israel and the mitzvah of the sabbatical year. Second, our farmer is endangering his livelihood, which is foolish. Lastly, if he loses his farm or creates tension among his family or business associates because of his religious obstinacy, then it causes what's called, and Scotty and I was just talking about this tonight, Hillel Hashem, a desecration of the name of Hashem or God in his Torah. So when we add something thinking that we're doing it for God's service when we were not, it desecrates the name of God in his Torah.
So now, if I can just clarify, so if we choose to do something that we were not commanded to do, is that what our discussion is right here?
That yes, but there's even more understanding in that, because there are areas we are permitted.
Okay.
I'm going to be getting to that. But there are areas that is no. And I'm just going to throw this example out. When God told Adam and Eve, all the trees of the garden is yours to eat. Let's translate that to the Noahide. There are 7 commandments full of details. They're there, eat. But there's one over here you're not permitted to eat from. There are mitzvot that are forbidden fruit for us. Is that okay there, Scotty? I see you grinning.
Yeah, I think it's great. You know, yeah, I'm gonna let you present what you got, and I got a bunch of questions wrote down over here, so I'm gonna present.
We'll get to those. I just want to get through this material, so because I do have some other stuff I want to get into, and I won't take all night doing it, because you know me, I'm a preacher, If it says here, nope, I'm not going. Okay, Rabbi Moshe Feinstein. He was one of the great Torah scholars of the 20th century, and I won't go into much more of that. But he was a great Torah scholar, and he was at a level where he could make certain decisions that this is how it is, kind of, put your foot down kind of thing. He wrote, he says, I'll just read it the way it says. If this is the case, Rav Moshe Feinstein writing begs upon us why things should be any different for a Noahide. After all, there are no two Torahs. It is vitally important for anyone wishing to adopt a Noahide identity to embrace this point. There are no two Torahs. The same mechanics that govern the Jewish observance of the 613 also govern the Noahide observance of the 7. Just as the Jews have, well, I didn't get into this word, but we have Hadishidot in the Hebrew. They have what's called Baal Tosef. Basically is for our understanding, it's very similar in meaning. The Noahides, I have the Hadishidot, like I said, the concept applies to both. The concept of not adding a religion and adding a commandment, or creating a new religion or adding a commandment, applies to both of us. And I've showed how a Jew can do that. Within the 613, they can still create a religion and add a commandment, even within that, because of their identity of where God put them. Again, according to species, God shows us even in Israel, there are commandments that belongs to this group of Jews, and there's commandments that belong to this group of Jews. They don't go back and forth. And it can be a sin. It can be a sin for them if they go back and forth, just as it is for us. And that's why we've got to learn where our boundaries are, our identity, where our identity is within the Torah and who we are. This is why this is important for us and is important for them. But he goes on and says, Hadushidat is transgressed whether a non-Jew creates a new religion, whether a non-Jew creates a new religious practice for himself or behaves as if he is obligated to do other mitzvahs that's not given to him in the Torah. This point is perhaps the most important yet. The prohibition of Hadushidat does not exist to reduce or restrict the identity of the Noahide. Similarly, the prohibition for the Jews does not exist to reduce the identity of the Jew. Instead, the Hadushidat exists to define the boundaries of the Noahide relationship and his creator. It delineates where Judaism ends and Noahide laws begin. A Noahide may drink from the same well. So, yeah, a Noahide may drink from the same well as the Jew and share its core beliefs and values. Yet he has his own identity, wholly separate and distinct from the Jew. Noahides have their own special mitzvot and mission in the world as the Jews has theirs. The Noahide laws is not a form of Judaism for the non-Jew. Neither is being a Noahide a way for a non-Jew to practice in Judaism. For the non-Jew who wishes to observe Jewish rituals or festivals in the Jewish manner, Maimonides, the Rambam, teaches that conversion to Judaism is the only option. Got anything there, Scotty?
No, I'm gonna let you just keep presenting. If I get on it now, you're not going to be able to finish.
Won't be able to
So
finish.
I got some stuff, and Angelica's sitting on the edge of her seat. She's got something too, so we're going to let you keep going. And
we'll open everything up at the end.
Okay.
Because
Angelica's like me; she's sitting right on the end of her seat. Go ahead, Ted.
Rav Moshe goes on and explains, says, any spiritual motivation makes the mitzvah a religious act. This is even if the mitzvah is performed only occasionally. Therefore, the only permissible motivation can only be ulterior. However, whatever ulterior non-spiritual motives could there possibly be for keeping kosher or many other mitzvahs? So it's saying here, I understand the seven Noahide laws, the 6 prohibitions, and the 1 for setting up courts. For those that don't know, the prohibition of idolatry, prohibition of blasphemy, the the prohibition of murder, the prohibition of theft, the prohibition of forbidden sexual relations, the prohibition of eating meat taken from a living animal, and then setting up just courts. Did I leave one off there? I think I did. But anyhow, these are, when you look at these and you study these, there's something missing. There are no religious, sacred days, foods, times, religious rites, religious festivals. Nothing is there. And some people have a hard time with that. But there is a beauty in it. There is actually a beauty that our Creator actually can protect us from some things, from all of this other stuff. Because when we really look at the Noahide laws in their details, there's more on our plate than we will ever get to do in our lifetime. There is a lot to do. Yes, there's a lot not to do, but on the opposite, there are things to do. Like with theft, there's giving and stuff. So we have to be careful that we don't even observe the 7 in a religious form. We need to stay from religious format on that. Now, what I want to do is I want to go over and read from the Divine Code. There's some of this stuff's going to cross over, but I really like how Rabbi Weiner brings out a few things. And actually, I'm going to cross over another chapter in his that I found beautiful that I wanted to share. In the first part, chapter 3, the prohibition against making the new religion and adding commandments. Over in paragraph paragraph 2. Says the general rule that is forbidden for a Gentile, well, I don't mean for a non-Jew, an additional or certainly a community which observes the Noahide code to add precepts from another religion to create a commandment based on his own decision. He goes on down here, he says, a non-Jew may be deeply involved in Torah study regarding the Noahide code in which he is commanded. And I wrote a little side note over here on page 78. I thought it was really beautiful. This is in chapter 5, dealing with Torah study. It says, if a non-Jew is one of the pious of the nations of the world who keeps the 7 Noahide commandments as their part of the Torah of Moses because he is commanded to do them, and he is careful and is involved in learning the parts of the Torah that relate to these 7 commandments, he is indeed considered before God as being as honorable as a proper Jewish high priest who serves in the holy temple. A hint to this, now back to Shem, a hint to this is that Shem, who was a Noahide, the son of Noah, was completely righteous, and he was involved in Torah study. Thus, the verse praises him, saying he was a priest to the God Most High. We can be on that same level when we are living and studying out our laws. And like I said before, as we begin to study these and we get deeper into them and learning them, and you can go as deep as you want, like we've talked about, like with the leaf, you can look at it with your eyesight, or you can look at it with a magnifying glass, all the way up to an electron microscope. You can dig into our laws as deep as what your personality, would let you do. And it doesn't change the law, but it beautifies it. It brings out more detail, more responsibility. And that's one thing we can't just look at the laws. And I hate sometimes the word English, laws and commands, because they have a negative connotation here in the West. But that's just what they are. They're laws, they're commands, they're instructions. And we've got to put away our Western mindset and grasp that this is the Creator. And Scotty, you've done it so beautifully in some of your stuff where you were talking about the owner's manual. There are things in the owner's manual of your vehicle, your blender, or whatever you want to, okay, that'll say, to get the best operation of this piece of equipment, do this. Don't do that. Don't do this. Don't do that. We don't have problems when we read that, you know, don't pour kerosene down the oil spout in your car. We don't have a fit with that. But when Hashem tells us, you know, not to even raise your hand to strike a person, we got a problem with that. We've got to look and change our mindsets into a Torah mindset that our commandments is like a dad telling his son, don't put your hand on that burner on the eye of the stove. Son won't understand. He doesn't understand that daddy loves the son enough that he's trying to protect him from being hurt. And that is what our commandments are that he gives us. He doesn't want us hurt. And he's saying, pull back. Don't do that. It's going to hurt you if you do. And we're like the child who doesn't understand until we decide when dad turns his back, we reach over and touch it. And then we got a blister on our hand. And then we're crying. And all along, we understand. But we don't have to have those blisters. Let's just accept what the Creator has said. Let's don't murder. Let's don't hate. Let's don't raise our hands. Let's, you know, there's a lot to learn in the 7 laws. There's a lot of learning and understanding. Studying them gets you to also, the Creator tells us in the Hebrew Scriptures to know Him. And the more we study our commandments, the more we know Him. The less we study Him, the less we know of Him. And the more we'll be more apt to make wrong conclusions because we don't know Him. And I just thought there was a beautiful section that right here that even Shem was righteous and he was called a priest. You know, when Hashem told Moses to write that down, he says, write this down. Shem was a priest. You know, he was recognized just like Noah was recognized as the righteous in his generation. Neither one of the men considered themselves right. They didn't state they were righteous. The Creator did. And we hope to, Scotty and I hope to do a class on righteousness. One day we've got one we've done for some others we would like to kind of do and tweak it a little bit for the Noahites, because it's a really good understanding what righteousness is and what it is in our life. Rabbi Weiner goes on and he says in chapter 6 of, or verse, paragraph 6, chapter 3, part 1 in the Divine Code, the 3rd edition. If a non-Jew wants to do one of the other commandments from the Torah in order to receive a practical benefit, but not as a direct commandment, we do not prevent him from doing so, even according to its correct laws. For example, if he desires to tithe for charity from his money or produce. However, if a non-Jew observes any of the Jewish commandments from the Torah as a religious obligation, even if he does so from a desire to receive a spiritual reward, this is forbidden based on the prohibition of adding a commandment. There is no spiritual reward to be derived from this. Non-Jews are especially forbidden to perform commandments that require the holiness of a Jew. See, the Jews are set apart as a priesthood. They have a holiness that we will never attain unless we convert. But then even there, we are not, even converts can only go so far. And a lot of people don't know that. They convert, there are even restrictions on converts. And so we are not permitted as Noahites to perform any of the commandments of Torah that requires the holiness, the separation of the Jew. such as writing a scroll of Torah or a mezuzah or tefillin. The general rule is that any Jewish mitzvah between man and between man and God, which has reason and logical benefit for a person or society, is permitted for the non-Jew to perform. But this does not apply for any commandment that does not have a logical and natural benefit, but instead is a sign for the Jew, as in wearing ritual tzitzits or tefillin or putting mezuzah on doorpost. Those things are forbidden. And that's why I wanted to bring that out, because we see all the time in some of our groups, we have, and a lot of it comes from people that are just, finding out and learning. Well, can I put up a mezuzah? Can I wear tefillin? Can I buy a prayer shawl that has the seats and wear seats? These are holy articles for the Jew only. We have no connection to the Creator in those areas. Those are not our connection points. And in saying that, what I want to do is right here, it says non-Jews are permitted to add any prohibition in order to guard themselves against transgression or establish a correct or orderly society. This is desirous as part of observing the obligation of the Noahide commandments to establish courts and laws and develop proper societies in the world. So what this is saying right here, this is an area that I wanted to bring out that we don't talk a lot about. And in the Noahide circles I've been in, I don't remember seeing any of this discussed. And that is in Judaism. And for those who don't know, I sat at the gate of conversion for almost 7 years. And the Creator showed me that wasn't my path. This is my path. But while I was there, I learned what a lot of people don't, when they think, well, the Jews added to the, this and added that when they see things. No, they didn't. We are permitted to put up fences to prevent. It says right here, Noahide are permitted to add any prohibition in order to guard themselves against a transgression. We are permitted to put up fences, things that we will do or not do to keep us from transgression. Just as an example, a physical example, Scotty and I was discussing this the other night. I said, how many times, up here in Tennessee, you go up here, Tellico Plains and places like that, and you go around the mountains and you look over the edge and, it's 300-400 feet below you, and you're above the treetops. There's not a guardrail on some of these old back roads here in Tennessee. And one slip, you drop off the shoulder of the road, you're gone. Nothing there to protect you. And that's what a fence is in the Torah. A fence protects you from driving off the cliff. Keeps you from transgression. Maybe in your past life, you were an alcoholic and you want to stay away from alcoholic beverages. So one of your fences is you don't go into a bar. That's just logical. We know people that are that way. They've had to, or anything like that. You put up a fence, and we don't talk a lot about putting up fences because some things it's adding. It's not adding. It's protecting. It's protecting us from the transgression. And I want to share with you something interesting in the Torah. In Deuteronomy chapter 22, and it's going to be 6 through 8. Well, I originally went to 8, but because of the commentary brings up what 6 and 7 talks about. So I wanted to start in 6 and 7. It says, if a bird's nest happens to be before you on the way, in any tree or on the ground, the young one, or with young ones or eggs, and the mother is sitting on the young or on the eggs, you shall not take away the mother while she is roosting on her young. You shall let the mother go free, but the young you may take for yourself, so that it will be well with you and that you will live long. Isn't that interesting? The Creator here blesses, if you do this, You come across a nest. There's a mother. There's some eggs. Maybe you want some eggs. Maybe it's breakfast time. You're in the woods. And you're not permitted to take them with the mother there. But if you shoo the mother away, you're permitted to take them. And it's interesting. This will give you long life. Just doing this one mitzvah would give you long life. Did you know that we as Noahites can do this right here? So many are saying, can we do mezuzahs? Can we do tefillin? Can we do this? But when was the last time anyone ever asked, can I do this commandment? It's here. It's in the Torah. With what I know, and Rabbi can correct me on this if I'm wrong, this commandment, where would this fall at in the 7 commandments? It would fall under, you shall not eat a limb from a living animal. From that, we've learned the taking care of nature, the earth. We've learned that that is a direct commandment. We're not permitted to take meat from a living animal and eat it. It has to be dead. The animal has to be dead before we take the meat. But under that, the sub-rulings is respect for creation. And this commandment would fall within respecting the creation. But yet I've never heard anyone say, can I keep this one? They go to the rituals. But the rituals don't promise long life. This one promises long life. And we don't ask about it. And I read that. I'm like, I've read this before, but then I read that, as I was preparing, I'm like, wow, here is a commandment that promises long life. I've not heard no one, not even myself, ask, can I keep this? See how beautiful we have so much more we can do. We have more that's tied to our 7. Now I want to go to verse 8. I weren't to verse 8 because when I read this about building the fences, this is a Torah command about building a fence. It says in 8, when you build a new house, you shall make a guardrail for your roof and thus not bring bring a blood guilt upon your house. If anyone falling should fall from there. I'm going to read that again. When you build a new house, you shall make a guardrail for your roof and thus not bring blood guilt upon your house. So if anyone falling should fall there. So in the kind of houses they built back then, and still over in the Middle East, a lot of houses are built with the flat roofs and things where people go up on the roof a lot. You built a roof. A guardrail around the roof to keep someone from falling. And if you didn't and they fell, then you brought a blood guilt on your house. Now, Rabbi Hirsch has some really interesting stuff. He says, the preceding mitzvah, the one about the birds, taught us to appreciate the importance of the home and the woman's activities for the sake of her household. Even in the form of a bird's nest and the mother bird, the group of mitzvah that begins with the present verse makes us aware that higher dignity of the human home and human domestic activity. Animals build their nest and care for their young instinctively, whereas in man, these instinctive drives are joined by the demand of moral law. The birds build a nest only for itself and for those directly dependent on it. In this endeavor, it is guided solely by egotism, by the powerful drive of self-preservation. Not so man. In building his house, he must be motivated from the outset by consideration for the welfare not of only those who dwell in it presently, but also those who may dwell there in the future. In the whole sphere of this home, he must not keep anything that might cause injury to someone else. In all his work of providing for himself and nurturing himself, in all his activity for the sake of mastering nature, and in his whole appearance as a human being, he must be mindful of the great lawgiver of the universe and must always remember that he was created in order to fulfill the Creator's laws in moral freedom, even as the animals were created in order to fulfill the Creator's laws instinctively without a will of their own. Above all, man must always remember that wherever his pursuits may take him, he can prove his manly strength and dignity only by the self-discipline he shows in observing the law. So we are commanded in the Torah to build a fence. I'm saying that with a very wide stroke. Why do we build the fence? Why is the command to build the fence? To protect someone from falling. When you build a fence of the 7 laws of the Torah around yourself, you're protecting yourself from falling. And you're also protecting someone else. What if they're following your example? And if you can protect yourself from falling, you're going to protect someone who may be following your example. And so I kind of want to end this. We'll open up here in just a second. I want to read you something from the Lubavitcher Rebbe, Menachem Schneerson. True life depends upon observing the Noahide laws. The Noahide laws are different from secular law. They precede and transcend all human laws. For the very concept of law presupposes the existence of a living person. Only then it is possible to command him to follow the civil law. However, first and foremost, he must be made into a living person. The source of life of everything is in the universe: humans, animals, plant life, and inert creations. Is the creator and the director of the universe. By the word of God, the heavens were made, and by the spirit of his mouth, all their host. Thus, the entire meaning of life for non-Jews consists observing the will of the creator of the universe within the Noahide laws, just as the life of the Jew consists of observing the Torah and mitzvahs. For we are told concerning them, they are our life, and you shall observe and live by them. Then he goes on and says, non-Jews should make God proud. It is written, they are the work of my hands in which to take pride. Although this verse refers to the Jewish people, the expression, the work of my hands, include non-Jews and all aspects of creation. Since they are all the handiwork of God, they should all reach a state in which God takes pride in them. So when we observe our Noahide laws as non-Jews, when we find and gain our identity within the Torah, that we are separate from Israel and they are separate from us, that's not a problem. One's not greater, one's not lesser. It's just an identity. And we begin to fulfill our identity as Noahides before the Creator, we can make him proud. This is why I'm really, really stuck on this the teaching of Genesis 1, 11, and 12. God said that when he says, bring forth all the plants according to their kind. And he says, and it was good. All their separateness, all their differences that made them who each plant was, the cornstalk and the cedar tree, the grapevine and the grass. God said it was good. And we're to learn from that. And so I just wanted to, I hope I brought that, I hope I brought this issue out for everyone to be able to understand the importance of learning our identity as Noahides. And looking at when we study the laws, really when we study the laws, we've got to learn that, I know that some of the new ones, and they're just learning. I mean, we've all done it. Well, can I do this? Can I do that? We've got to learn to be able to point them in the right direction as Noahides and show them, what about this commandment over here that promises life? You thought about that? I don't know. Just food for thought. Go ahead, Scotty.
Well, I know Angelica is sitting on the edge of her seat, and I can tell by the look on Rabbi Pesach's face, he is wanting to jump in very badly. I got two things I must say. I picked up this little owner's manual for a thing that I got here when you was talking about the owner's manual, and I flipped it open to a page, and it says, do not use this product near or around water. If this product gets wet, it voids the manufacturer's warranty. I just wanted to put that little bit in there. So what happens? What we do is, I'm going to just point blank. Now, this may be one for Rabbi Pesach to get in, for people to refuse to hear the teaching that you just said. And they said, you know what? I'm going to do it anyway. Now, wasn't Rabbi Pesach, didn't you cover a class where some guys was going to build a fire? I'm going to do that anyway. And something happened to them. So what happens to the people that says, you know what? I don't care what you tell me the Torah, I'm going to do it anyway, because I just think I like it. So I'm going to ask that question, leave that right there.
I'm going to let Rabbi handle that one.
Look, everybody knows the story of Avihu and Nadav. The two, Aaron was appointed high priest, and his two sons are the assistant high priests. In other words, they take over when he's too tired. They worked in shifts. And a particular spice mixture was given by God to use inside the Mishkan in the Holy of Holies. And these two young men got so excited. Wow, we're the assistant high priests now. This is really great. And what did they do? They went out and they mixed up a spice mixture that wasn't prescribed by God. And they said, oh man, look what we did for God. This is exciting. We're going to take him this great spice mixture because it comes from our heart and it comes from our love for him. And they started in and they entered the Holy of Holies, and God said, no. And they perished right there on the spot. This is the biggest teaching we could take to heart at all. If God says to somebody, do this, he means do this. He doesn't mean to do something else. We just read in the Torah portions how to build the Mishkan, where God's going to come and dwell amongst us in the desert. It is one of the most detailed explanations in the whole 5 books of Moses. The measurements, the type of material to use, who can actually make them and who cannot make them. And why did he go into such detail is because he only wants the people, like only master craftsmen could do the work. If I grow sheep and I shear the sheep and take it to somebody to spin the thread and weave the cloth to be used, if I say to myself, you know what, I'm going to weave the cloth, but I'm a sheep shearer, I'm not a weaver. God says, no, you're not going to do that. I only want you to do what you do best for me. And you can't do it if you're not the best, the master craftsman. And people always wonder why we have such detailed instructions about the Mishkan, that God's home here on earth, the temple, the holy temple, God's home on earth, because he says, this is the way I want my house built. No exceptions. Don't change anything. Do it exactly the way I say it. And that's why Nadav and Avihu got in trouble.
So, I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. The way you just explained that. But now, wait a minute. These two men was feeling good at what they were doing.
Absolutely. They were in love with God. They were happy.
They were excited about what they were doing. Oh, I hit my mic. I'm excited.
They were excited about what they were doing. They wanted to do, they were just rejoicing. Look, God made me an assistant high priest. I get to go do the things the high priest does, my father, when he's not around. I get to spill the blood on the altar. I get to do this. I get to do that. Nobody else can do it. Only me. Whoops, I hit my mic too. And I'm so excited. And I'm so in love with God. And then they decided to do something more than what God asked for. They changed what God asked for. They thought, which was actually going against God at the time. They didn't realize it, but it's there for an example for us. So
I like how you put that. He gave details because this is his house. So let's look at that. This is his house. There are details for the different places within that house. He has the Jews in this house. He has the non-Jews in this house. He has the cedars in this house. And each one is detailed in their place. And each one is important. The house would be incomplete without it.
Exactly. If you look at a map or a detailed diagram of how the Bet HaMikdash, the Holy Temple, was built in Jerusalem, you'll see there's only places where Kohanim can walk and only places where the high priest can walk. And if I'm just a regular Israelite, they build passages around these areas. There's a place for women. There's a place for non-Jewish people to congregate. There's a way that everybody has to do what they were made to do. Simple. That's in the Bet HaMikdash. But what is the Bet HaMikdash? If you look down from it from above, you'll see that it's laid out in the figure of a human. The Holy of Holies is where the head is and where your brain is. And then there's the body, and then there's arms, and there's legs. And they're divided into who can go where and do what. Well, the earth that's the earth. That's us. The only difference outside of the Bet HaMikdash, I mean, if you dared, they had guards there all the time. If you dared to go in the wrong place, you were immediately taken out. But he gave us outside of the Bet HaMikdash, he said, here's the way I want you to be as you, but I'm not going to build you like an animal. I'm just not going to make it instinctive like the bird or the tiger or the elephant. You have the choice to do it. And this is where our connection, our godly connection comes from. We choose to connect with him and do what he says, not what we think we want to do or try to rationalize what we think we want to do. You're absolutely correct, Terry, when you talked about the Torah being a plan and a Torah, and it's an owner's manual. And in the manual, it has different things for people to do for what they were created by God to do. And that was good teaching, good teaching.
Angelica, did you have something you?
I got a question, but I have an answer to it. But now, okay, this has to do with the land. Okay, for us Noahides, the land that we plant, the crops we plant. If you keep planting crops year after year and you do not let your land rest, your crops will die because the nutrients from the land will be missing and you have to let it sit. So
There's an alternative. It's called plant rotation. I'm from
yes, you can do plant rotation.
I'm from Kentucky. My grandfather was a tobacco farmer. Tobacco sucks the nitrogen out of the earth.
Yeah.
They have to plant so many years, and then they plant something else, and they go somewhere else and plant, on over. They plant the tobacco, and they plant something else there, and they'll use the tobacco byproducts, the stalks and stuff, to lay back on the land as well, so it will die and put the nitrogen back into the earth. So there's that's why we study the earth and see how it operates. The Jews are given the sabbatical. Yes, the rest is there. But for us, in Genesis 8:22, seed time and harvest will never cease. So we don't give the land a Shabbat like they do. What we have to do is we learn how the land operates. Yeah. We do plant rotations. We do we do what it takes to keep the earth going, and we learn how the earth works as a mechanism by doing this.
Yeah, I agree. What's happening here on my end of the world? They seem to be planting the same old, and then
you can't do that.
Crop gets smaller and smaller, and they're like, "What?"
Yeah, naturally you can't.
No.
Do that. I just came across a blog on Pinterest called "Back to Eden Gardening," and I watched one of his videos, and he has been learning from studying the forest, how God builds a forest. He just has been studying it naturally, and he started implementing these things into his garden, and he's got people from all over the world coming to his garden.
Wow.
I mean, they've come and they toured. Matter of fact, some of the videos I've seen is these were tour people there to tour, and
yes,
it's amazing some of the stuff that's going on. And so he studied what God is already doing, and he's turned around and implementing it into his own garden.
I think I know that one too. Yeah, that guy. It's a family. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's okay. Good. That's one. There is another promise that I totally stand on, and that there is a promise of long life also in Psalm 91. I think there are more places.
Oh yeah, there's more. It's just, but that one, when I was talking about, so many people ask about what mitzvah can I do here and there, and I myself, I haven't really. It's been I've been in Genesis for so long, I haven't gotten over to there, and I was studying. I said, well, this is a mitzvah that we can do. Anything that ties into our 7 laws, we are permitted to do and to learn from. But when I read that this causes life, I'm like, for a Noahide, putting up a mezuzah doesn't promise life.
No. And yet I have when I first was into doing 1 year of conversion, I put the mezuzah up and everything. So it's changing. I'm taking the inside out and putting a 7 on the outside, and then the inside are the 7 Noahide laws. And so when somebody looks at it, they're saying, "Oh, what's the 7 about?" So is that right or is that wrong?
No, that's a good idea. Actually, that's pretty neat.
I didn't know, because I didn't want to chuck it out.
Don't hang it in the way that the Jews hang theirs.
No,
do it straight up and down or something like, so it doesn't follow the law exactly.
Yeah, no, mine's.
For me, we've been supporters of Breslov Israel for a long time. Back from like around 2010 or so when we first started conversion, when we started studying for it. And it was time for us to update our information since we bought a house, changed address and all that stuff. So they'd actually contacted us because it was time to renew our thing. And we told us, oh, we've moved since then. We need to. Well, they sent us a housewarming gift, and I use it as our mezuzah. It's a plaque. It's called the Pomegranate House Blessing.
Oh,
Hebrew.
that's sweet.
I've got it to the right side of my door, my front door.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't use it as a mezuzah, but I'm just saying it's, we've got things we can do without, copying the Jews to the point where someone would look at something and say, are you Jewish? We should not, anything that we do, we should not even bring that question to someone's mind.
Yeah.
If we do, then that we might be treading on some thin ice.
I mean, I do have the Israel flag. I have it up.
I've got mine up there. I've got two chauffeur, and I've got my Hanukkah candle sticks up there where I had all that stuff I had when I was doing conversion. It's part of my past that I'm proud of.
Yeah. Yeah, that's okay.
The Israeli flag makes you part of Israel, and you are part of Israel when you become a Noahide.
Yes. Yeah.
That's
Mind you, mine's hanging outside. So when
That's
people
okay.
come, they, some of them don't even know what flag it is. So that's amazing.
I was blessed to go there in 2003.
Yeah.
Did not want to come home. No, I was home.
You were home. Yeah. I was there 2 years ago, and it's.
Yeah, I'm going to pull us back into our class.
Yeah, go ahead, Scotty.
What I do in the engine room, I'm going to pull us back into the class. Rabbi Feinstein.
Let me just do two things real quick. Angela is taking over the Tour for the Nations Women's Gathering every Saturday afternoon at 2:00, and she posts up what they're going to talk about, and she brings people and people for the women. This is only for women so they can have the freedom to discuss what they want with no guys around. And you ought to make sure you're there. It's at 2:00 on Saturday. Israel is different than being Jewish, okay? Jews are part of Israel, but everybody that wants to be part of Israel can be part of Israel and not be Jewish. So just understand that.
Finding the identity.
There you go. It's your identity within Israel. And all the earth will be known as Israel when the day comes when the Mashiach comes. So that's the way it is. Now, I just got to bring up one other thing, Scotty, just to bring it to your attention. Somebody said, why do the people in the Zoom room get precedent over people that do comments on Facebook and stuff? They don't. Scotty's going to get to that too, but the questions you ask, if they're not on topic, the questions you ask, if if you're giving your opinion and you want to change something, you probably aren't even going to, the question probably won't even be addressed because it just takes up too much time, and that's for you as an individual. So what you have to do is get a hold of them personally or something, okay? So, and if you're going to study the Noahide laws, you stop asking the questions that are outside of Noahide laws and listen to the information that you're getting. That's what you need to do. And with that, I'm going to say to you guys, good night. I got to get some sleep because I got an appointment in about 3 hours. But let me tell you, you guys, this is the way it's going to be every week now. And Terry is an excellent teacher. He's been certified as a Noahide teacher. And Scotty has also. And you can count on what they talk to you about. You can count on it. And if anybody's interested in being a certified teacher, that has to come through Tour for the Nations, and we're hooked up with World Noahide Center, Noahide World Center. I always say it backwards. Get a hold of me, And we're going to be having, by the way, another one of these pledge sessions again, too, in about 3 weeks. So if anybody's interested in taking the pledge is for you, for nobody else. It's for you in front of God. Okay. What's that link? Oh, okay. Emanuela put up a link there from Google. Okay, I'm out of here.
Rabbi, thank you so much.
Yes.
You are our umbrella. Thank you so much.
Thank
I'll
you.
keep you from getting wet. Don't worry.
Yeah, there you go.
God bless you guys.
You too. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Go
so
ahead,
much.
Scotty. What's our chats out there in the other?
Well, we've got some chat things, but I'm not going to bring them into the conversation here because they don't have anything to do with your class tonight.
Okay.
So
Just jot them down so we can,
Oh, now
every,
we got.
every question's a good question. Some of them we may decide to
Well,
do.
I misunderstood you between question and discussion.
Okay.
We had discussion on some Facebook things going on, but I don't think they were appropriate to bring in this class because it didn't have anything to do. It did, but it didn't. So I'm just that type.
Hey, you're the engineer.
Okay, MUL, I see you got your hand up, honey. You want to say something?
I'm mute. Okay. I just want to point out a few things that I had an aha moment during Harry's talk. One is we talked about the forbidden, what we're not allowed to do, and what the Israelites are allowed to do. My aha moment was like the tree in the Garden of Eden. We were allowed to eat any tree except one. And it's just like a Noahide. The Israelites have that one tree. We're not allowed to touch that tree. We can have any other tree, but not that one. Am I right?
Yes.
You said that was an aha moment, and that was an aha moment for me as well. MUL, when we covered that. Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
And the other one is, I got so many. Identity is our boundary.
The identity
Is our boundary.
The identity is our boundaries.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not Jewish, and that in itself is a boundary and an identity.
Yeah. And they're there to protect us, not to
restrict us.
Not to restrict us. I think that's awesome.
Asshole. Our duty, where we stand, our duty, what we're supposed to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I got a question. You might not want to answer, but I got a question. Desecrate. Like when you desecrate a commandment or desecrate what God tells you to do, is that blasphemy?
Did you understand what she said?
Yes, the desecrating is it blasphemy? I can say I feel like with what I understand and what like Rabbi Herky has said in the Brit Shalom. Yes, I feel like if you desecrate the Creator's name, that would be bringing a black mark on the name of God. That would be as blasphemy. That would be like one of the sub laws of blasphemy.
Wow.
Just like when Rabbi Herky said he brings in honoring parents. not loving, honoring parents. For the Noahide comes under blasphemy because it takes three for us to be created. It takes our mother, our father, and God to bring us into creation. And when we dishonor our parents, we dishonor God, and it's a form of blasphemy. When I read that, I thought, what wisdom Rabbi Herky has to be able to see that, because when he brought that in under the blasphemy, that was one of my aha moments when he was explaining that. See how fun the 7 laws can be. Some say that it's not enough, or it's this, or they're fun. It's fun to learn. I mean, look at the smile that Emwella has. And we just talked about making God proud at us, or proud of us. And when we approach the commandments the way she is doing it right there, with a smile and with everything in her heart, and these are the commandments that God has given her, and when we approach them like that, we've just made our daddy proud.
Amen. And Baruch Hashem.
Anyone else has got any more questions?
Okay, Terry. I guess I'm not, since nobody else, it's 9:30. So a great class, Terry. Great class. We appreciate everybody that's come. Those of you that's listening on, can I go ahead and close this out, Terry? Is that okay?
Can I come make just a quick announcement?
Yeah, I thought I'd better ask you. You look like you said, wait a minute now, hold on just a minute.
Listen, Scotty and I, somehow, if you message us or whatever, send us your questions. If you have a question, doesn't matter what it's about, as far as, toward the Noahide laws. We may not answer you directly, but we may take your question and formulate it into a class. We hope to one time do maybe a Q&A class. We'll let everybody know ahead of time, so a week or so ahead of time, so they can be putting their questions in. We may do that, a couple of times. We can maybe answer all the questions in one class, but we can spread it out. We've got, till Hashem says stop. But yeah, send us your questions, and we can formulate classes and other issues, and teachings around those questions to help answer them as well.
And Terry, if I can add to that, I'm going to be the bold one here. We are not going to discuss questions in the sake of you just want to start an argument.
Right.
We're going to, and don't ask a question if you're not going to take the answer. So there, I was bold on that, wasn't I? Wasn't I good on that? That's what I'm known for.
And also in that same line, be studying, be looking, for yourself. Investigate for yourself. Don't just take everything we say. Investigate yourself for yourself from other rabbis and stuff. When it comes to certain things, let's say you ask us about a certain mitzvot of the Torah. My answer will be, and please don't take offense to this, I'm going to tell you to go discuss that with the rabbi, because they are the ones that sets boundaries around that mitzvah, not us. Anything that we have to deal with, the 7 laws, we can discuss among ourselves. We can set up our fences. We can do whatever we need to do. We can seek our own rabbis, make sure we're doing it properly. But there are mitzvahs that we are permitted to partake into, but only allowed to do within the boundaries that Israel says we're allowed to. And so I don't teach on those. I don't teach on the areas that I will briefly touch a little bit, but I don't teach on those areas. I leave that to Israel, because those are Israel's mitzvahs, not ours. Fred, did you have your hand up?
Fred, we can't hear you.
We can't hear you, Fred.
Now, your mic's unmuted, Fred, but for some reason we can't hear you. Fred is froze. There's Fred.
Nope, still no
Oh, we're
voice.
sorry, Fred. We still can't hear you. Are you on a cell phone? Yeah. Is your volume all the way up? No, we can't hear you, Fred. Sorry.
Some headsets turns off the voice. I've discovered that on mine.
Yeah. Have you got a headset on? We can't hear you, Fred. So sorry. I could tell he was really wanting to get involved in this.
Yeah.
All right. Well, okay. Listen, like it on Facebook, share the video on Facebook. Make sure you subscribe to Torah for the Nations YouTube channel. And we're trying to get Rabbi Pesach's Torah for the Nations, get the subscriptions way up. He gets some special benefits once we get that up to a certain number. And please remember next week. Now, I don't know if Rabbi Pesach said he was going to be here Sunday night or not. So keep looking in the B'nai Noach connection with Israel, and you'll see if he posts something that he's going to be there Sunday night, and you can come and join in on that. Remember, send us information if you would like us to do a class for somebody in honor of them or in blessed memory of them. Please send us information on that. We may not get all of them, but we will get what we can of those. And Terry, again, I want to say that was an awesome presentation tonight. There is a reason you are in the captain chair.
Nah, I don't know about
And Angelica, I need to add this before we come to a complete close. Angelica, how can somebody get a hold of you? They can message you on Facebook Messenger to get information in order to come into the Zoom class. Is this a Zoom class you do?
Yes, it's a Zoom class.
Okay.
Absolutely good.
All right. Good deal. All right. Well, everybody, thank you so much. We greatly appreciated you being there. We appreciate you, Terry, and we will see you next Wednesday night at 8 p.m.
Yes.